Now that we have the basic shape completed and you've seen how we're modeling this so far, and moving on from this point, I will not be saying out the keyboard shortcuts so that we can model this at a more moderate speed. Also, as you've seen, we're adding these different modifiers, and it takes some time to go through this menu and add these modifiers. So what I would like you to do is click on Add Modifier, and then add some of these modifiers that we're using over and over again to your favorite menu. And to do that, you simply right-click, and then you can add the modifier. So if I right-click here, you can see that it says Add to Quick Favorites. Now I've already added these, and you can't reorder these or rearrange these, so add them in an order that's easier for you. So for example, if I press Q button on the keyboard, you can see that it opens up my quick favorites, and here I have set origin, array modifier, bevel, mirror, solidify, and subdivision. So it's really easy to access all of that with one key, and we don't have to look for these modifiers in the modifiers menu. Okay, with that out of the way, let's start modeling. So we'll go ahead and select our walls, tap into edit mode. Using the face selection mode, we're going to duplicate this and then separate this from the selection. Now with that new object selected, tap into edit mode and select everything, and then we're going to scale it. So I'm sort of creating paintings on this area of the wall. So we're just going to eyeball the size, and then we're going to grab this and we're going to move it to that part of the wall. I'm going to make it a little too small like that. And now we can get a bit closer. We're going to extrude it, and then we're going to inset it, and then extrude it inwards, select everything, and then add mean bevel weight. Now we're going to right click and set our origin point to geometry, and we're going to create a few more copies of this. Move it up slightly like that, create one more copy, and move it down. Let's select both of these and scale them down just a tiny bit, like that. And now we're going to create a clock on this area of the wall, and to do that, it would be easier to add a 3D cursor here, so shift right click to move that there, and then we're going to go ahead and add a circle, and let's change the size to something like 10, and then we're going to rotate this along the y-axis 90 degrees, tap into edit mode and scale it down. Something like that. Just eyeball the size, and you can tweak this if you want to later on. And now we can zoom in here, tap into edit mode, F to fill this. And now we're going to just extrude it. Actually, I was not in the edit mode. And now we can just extrude it slightly and then scale it up, extrude one more time and scale it up more. And then we can add a subdiv modifier, shade it smooth. And then we're going to add one loop cut in this area to preserve a bit of that shape there. And now we can add one more circle. And we have sides already set up, so we're going to just scale it down. And also we're going to rotate this 90 degrees on the y-axis. We might need to move this slightly on the x-axis. And we can scale it down. Let's go to the side view by pressing 3 on the numpad. And then using the vertex selection mode, we're going to go ahead and select these vertices and move them up on the z-axis like that. Select everything, fill the face, and then extrude it out like that. Add a loop cut in the center like that, and then add a subdiv modifier and shade it smooth. Now we're going to go ahead and right click and set our origin to a geometry. It's going to move that to the center, and then if we go to our tool options, under here we have effects only, and we're going to select origins. Now what's going to happen is that it's going to only move the origin even when we're using the move tool. So now we can go ahead and press G to grab along z-axis, and you can see we're changing the origin point. So we'll move that down there, and then we can turn it off. Now what happens is that if we go to the side view and then rotate, it's going to be really easy to rotate this. And then we just need to create a copy of this. So we're going to duplicate that, and then enable X-ray mode, tap into edit mode, and select some of these top vertices, and then move it down slightly like that. And then we can just rotate this like that, and then we need to move this slightly on the x-axis. And now we're going to create some flower pots for this area. So let's shift C to move this 3D cursor back to the world origin, and then we're going to add a circle, move it up, and scale it down. Actually, I'm going to scale it down in the edit mode. And then we're going to fill it up Now we're going to move this to this area. The easiest way would be to enable snapping and set it to face snapping mode, and then we can just grab it and it's going to just stick there on the surface like that. Turn off the snapping, and again we just need to sort of tweak the positioning a little bit, and then we can scale it down more, and then we're just going to extrude it up like that. Inset just a tiny bit like that, extrude it inwards, and then scale it down slightly, and we might need to add some supporting loops, and then we can add a subdiv modifier, shade it smooth, and we're going to add a face here. And if you want to move this face to the side, you can just press G twice, and that's edge slide. That's going to give you that control more easily. And then we're going to select the center face, duplicate that, and separate by selection. Now with that face selected, to select that face, we can hide this, and then select that face, Alt-H to unhide everything, and then shift-click on this twice to deselect this, and that's going to leave us with that object selected. And another way to do this is that you can hide this by pressing H, and then select this and move it slightly up, and then unhide everything. And that way it's going to be a little above the previous place and easier to select. Let's tap into edit mode, scale it down like that, and then extrude it out. Add some supporting loops. Switch to X-ray mode. Using the vertex selection mode, select these top vertices, enable the proportional editing with smooth fall off, and then we're going to start scaling it down, and we're going to make sure our fall off circle is to the top side like that, and then we can move it down slightly like that. And now let's create a leaf. So we're going to go ahead and add a plane object, and then we're going to move it above the ground, tap into edit mode, and scale it down. Let's go to the top view and scale it a little bit on the x-axis, and then add 3 loop cuts, and then we just need to modify shape to so that it looks more like a leaf. Just keep changing the shape a little bit like that. And then we're going to add a loop cut in the middle like that. Select this vertex point and move it slightly on the y-axis. Scale it even more. And then we're going to select these 2 edge loops and bevel these, and make sure to add 1 cut between them using the mouse scroll wheel like that. And then using the vertex selection mode, move it more to the end of the face, and same thing here. And then we're going to go ahead and select this inner part and move it down like that. And let's press Ctrl Z. We're going to leave this one and move it like that. And now we're going to press Q to open our quick favorite menu, add solidify modifier, and change the settings to add a bit more depth like that. Shade this object smooth and add a level 2 subdivision. And then we're going to go ahead and apply the solidify modifier and select these faces, extrude them out like that, scale it down, and then extrude again. And to increase this depth, we can go into the X-ray mode and select these edge loops in the center, and then we can just move them even more on the Z-axis like that. And now to give it more of a curve shape, we're going to enable proportional editing and with a more sharp fall off. And then in the vertex selection mode, we're going to select these 2 vertices. Let's go to the right view. And then we're going to go ahead and grab this on the Z-axis. Actually, it's not turned on, so let's make sure to turn it on. And then we're going to increase the fall off like that. And then we can turn it off. Press period on the numpad to zoom in on the leaf. Okay, I think it looks good enough, and now we just need to scale it down slightly, and I would do it in edit mode so that we didn't mess up the scale. And then we can right click, set origin to geometry, and let's go to the top view, move it closer to this area, and then we're going to move it up on the Z-axis. Since we're going to need this sort of rotating around this part, Let's make it even smaller like that. Whoops. Okay, so let's play around with the size a little bit like that. And just adjust so that it's placed like that. And now we need to move this origin point here, and the easiest way would be to tap into edit mode using the X-ray mode, and then select these two faces here, Shift S to open this pie menu, and then cursor to selected. That's going to move our 3D cursor to that part of the object, and then to move that origin point, we can go into the object mode and set origin to 3D cursor, and that's going to move it there. So that's the easiest way to do it. And let's go to the top view. We're going to create a copy of this and put it to the side, and then using this one we can create more copies. So Shift D to duplicate, and then we can just rotate that. And we're going to do this a few more times like that. And let's randomize the positioning a little bit. So we're going to move it like that. Select all of these, Shift D to duplicate, and then rotate to add randomization. Let's move it up even more, scale it down slightly, and we're going to sort of randomly scale these so that it looks a bit better. And let's go ahead and add one more batch. Okay, let's look from like side view. I think it looks good enough. And now I think we should scale up these leaves a little bit. So let's go ahead and select some of these randomly and then scale these up. And we're going to use this leaf as a reference for creating a particle system. And let's create a part here. And to do that, let's just take this edge loop. So in the edit mode, Shift D to duplicate. And then we're going to select that loop that we just copied. Scale it down. Extrude a couple times. And then we're going to insert the face. So we're basically just extruding and inserting face a couple more times like that. And then in the face selection mode, we're going to extrude these along the face as normal. And let's add a supporting loop cut there. Now for this one, we're going to create this stem part a little different. So Shift right click to move the 3D cursor, and then let's add a path from the curve. And then we're going to rotate this on the y-axis 90 degrees, and we're going to scale it down. Let's move it to the top like that and scale it even more. Now let's go to the right view and select these points like that, and then grab these to move. And you can see that there's this path, and we just need to sort of rotate that and move it down there. So we need to select and just keep grabbing and rotating this. And now we can go to the front view to add a bit more randomization. So select some of these points and sort of rotate these. Okay, that's going to give us this sort of path. And then we can use this leaf and place it along it. And to do that, we're going to go ahead and go to this data tab, enable the geometry, and add a bit of depth to it. And then select this point in the edit mode. Alt S to shrink and fatten. Actually, we have to enable the proportional editing so that we can apply it gradually to the curve. And just like that, it's going to give us a bit of thinner end. And now we can create a copy of this and hide it in case we need it. And then we can select the one here. And we're going to go ahead and convert it. So convert to mesh. And that's going to give us access to this particle system. So click on this particle, and then click on this button here to add a new particle system. And we're going to change it from emitter to here and enable advanced options. And then under render, we're going to change it from path to an object. And then for the instance object, we're going to click on this eyedropper icon and select that leaf over there. And that's going to apply it all the way over to this sort of curve. So we need to change some settings. First, we're going to change this number to something like maybe 100. Let's go with a little higher, so let's go with 150. And then under our render settings, we're going to change the scale randomization. and this scale sort of depends on the leaf that we have out there. So let's just increase that a little bit. And then here we also have the rotation, so enable that and expand the settings. And then here we have the randomization for that. And also under velocity, we can change how some of the rotation for the leaf works. So we might need to sort of play around with that, these settings a little bit. So we're going to go ahead and randomize it slightly like that. I think it's good, and we're going to leave it there. We can hide these reference objects later on. For now, we're just going to keep it there. And just like that, we have some of the props completed. At this point, I think we can go ahead and save our file.